that report. The Treasurer, Wayne Swan, flies to Moscow tonight for the G20, but he leaves behind a Labor caucus increasingly questioning of his economic judgment. The underperformance of the mining tax continues to dog him, and he had an awkward about-face today on hikes to personal income tax. As political editor Chris Ullman reports, the Treasurer's performance is doing nothing to soothe the nerves of his jittery colleagues in this election year.
A man under pressure.
When the criticism of your own mining tax, and has been from the beginning, is that it's full of loopholes.
Well, the MRRT, Fran, is a very important long-term reform.
The Treasurer's spent this fortnight battling on two fronts, defending the dumping of his promised budget surplus and explaining why his mining tax has so far fallen more than 90% short of revenue expectations.
The revenues that were forecast, given the difficulty of forecasting in this area of tax, were prepared by our professional advisors, the same forecasters who worked for the previous government.
The professional advisors fronted a Senate Estimates Committee today.
Dr Parkinson, what went wrong in Treasury's approach to forecasting revenue from the mining tax?
We've adjusted those estimates for the things that we can see that have changed in the interim. What we haven't done is adjust the estimates for things that we can't see.
Treasury can see and adjust for commodity prices and volumes. It can see the exchange rate and the state royalty rate. But one thing it couldn't see was the market value of the company's assets that would be used as a deduction against mining tax liabilities.
We can't see changes that may have been made. Remember, at the time...
But it was fixed in time, like the starting base was like as of 1 May 2010.
But when those components of the mining industry talked with us, there was no legal obligation on them to have actually settled on the starting base. They actually had the opportunity to go back and think about what their starting base should be. They gave us their best estimate, as we understand it, their best estimate at the time, but they clearly had until the point in which they are legally obligated for the tax, the opportunity to rethink that.
The mining companies argued the new baseline was fair because their assets had been taxed before the mining tax was created. But it means they won't be paying anything until they've exhausted a multi-billion-dollar pile of tax credits. The crucial point in all of this is that while officials are responsible for forecasting revenue, they can't be blamed for the tax design because there were no officials in the room when the deal was struck with the big three miners. The government was represented by the Treasurer and the Resources Minister, and the deal was signed off by the Prime Minister.
When Wayne Swan signed on to that commitment, he did not know what the cost of that commitment was. Now, that is beyond incompetent. That is beyond reckless. That is a completely sackable offence.
The Treasurer has the call.
It is not unusual that there are deductions which are provided for in a tax such as this. And it is the case. It is the case that there's a starting base allowance. It is a deduction which recognises past investment.
Another front was opened against the Treasurer this morning.
Can you guarantee Australians there'll be no income tax increases?
I don't, in the lead up to any budget, Fran, this year or in any of my 5 budgets, go into that sort of rule in, rule out routine, and I'm not doing it today.
But the day was young and the routine changed.
Will he rule out increasing income taxes in this year's budget? Yes or no?
We will not be increasing personal income taxes. What we will be doing is continuing to reform the system so people on low incomes get a fair go.
And as the Bard said, when sorrows come, they come not as single spies, but in battalions.
We stand here with an unemployment rate of 5.1.
Would the Treasurer advise the House what the actual current unemployment rate is?
Yes, I do think it's important, and it is 5.4. And I did make a mistake, but the one thing that I think we should all understand is this: that keeping unemployment low and creating jobs requires strong economic growth, and everything this government has done has kept our economy strong.
This week, the strongest critics of the Treasurer have been behind him. And the economy might be strong, but his and the Prime Minister's grip on an increasingly nervous caucus is slipping.
Political editor Chris Yeoman.